I am continuing my reading, and what I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along. But right now, I am still in the first book of Samuel. We're nearing the end. This is chapter 30. The Amalekites spoil Ziklag and the coasts of Judah. David smites Amalek and reigns and divides the spoil, and regains and divides the spoil. Now remember, Ziklag was the town that Achish, king of Gath, gave to David, so that him and the other Israelites wouldn't be in the middle of the Philistines. They could still be separated, but be part of the Philistine nation. So here we go. And it came to pass, when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag, and burned it with fire, and had taken the women captive that were therein. They slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away, and went on their way. So, the Amalekites came in from the south, and they captured all the women and children. Didn't kill anybody, just captured them. But remember, David had left with the army of Achish to go with the Philistines against Israel. This invasion of the Amalekites happened while he was gone, probably in retaliation for David attacking the Amalekites and wiping out everybody he met, which happened in chapter 27, I believe it was. So let's continue, verse 3. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's two wives were taken captive, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people were grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. And Abiathar brought thither the ephod to David. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, Shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, Pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Besor. Okay, so this is interesting. They're all mourning for their wives and their families, and they get upset at David. And there's talk about stoning David. This is an interesting one. These are the men that have been following him for a couple of years now. They've kind of flocked to David, those who were discontented with Saul, and now they're getting discontented with David. Now, it does seem that David took all 600 men with him when he went to march out with Achish, which was probably the command that Achish gave him. But the people are now angry because apparently they didn't leave any soldiers to defend the town. And so they're blaming David. But David, he says, no, he goes and he inquires of God, and God says, you go, and you're going to win. And so they all go. They all follow David, even though they were talking of stoning him. He says, God is with us, we're going to get him, and they join him because they know David is a great commander and a great warrior. But apparently only 400 of them continue because 200... I'm not sure if this was faint because of they hadn't eaten or whatnot, but, Anyways, verse 11. And they found an Egyptian in the field, and brought him to David, and gave him bread, and he did eat, and they made him drink water. And they gave him a piece of cake of figs, and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his spirit came again to him, for he had eaten no bread, nor drunk any water 3 days and 3 nights. And David said unto him, To whom belongest thou, and whence art thou? And he said, I am a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite, and my master has left me, because 3 days agone I fell sick. We made an invasion upon the south of the Kerethites, and upon the coasts which belong to Judah, and upon the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, Canst thou bring me down to this company? And he said, Swear unto me by God, that thou wilt neither kill me nor deliver me into the hands of my master, and I will bring thee down to this company. Now this is a lucky break for David, of course, probably planned out by God. This Egyptian servant was part of the battle, part of the army of the Amalekites, but he falls sick. And so the Amalekites just leave him behind, and he's there starving and thirsting to death in the middle of the field. He fell ill, probably was not strong enough to collect any food or water. The Israelites find him, and he agrees to basically act as guide and spy to help them get the Amalekites. So the Amalekites have, in essence, set up their own destruction here. Verse 16. And when he had brought him down, behold, they were spread abroad upon all the earth, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil that they had taken out of the land of the Philistines and out of the land of Judah. And David smote them from the twilight even unto the evening of the next day. And there escaped not a man of them, save 400 young men, which rode upon camels and fled. And David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. And there was nothing lacking of them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil, nor anything that they had taken to them. David recovered all. And David took all the flocks and the herds which they had drave before those other cattle, and said, This is David's spoil. Yeah, so he gets everything back. But you note there, they took the spoil of the land of the Philistines and the land of Judah. In other words, you remember Saul's marching out with his army, and the Philistines are marching out with their army. The Amalekites took advantage of this, and they attacked the lands in the south after the soldiers had all left. When the Philistines and the Israelites had marched out to battle, fighting each other, the Amalekites took advantage and went basically raiding and pillaging where they knew there would be no soldiers to defend. But David recovers everything. He smote them from the twilight even to the evening of the next day. In other words, this was over 24 hours of fighting. Verse 21. And David came to the 200 men which were so faint that they could not follow David, whom they had made also to abide at the brook Besor. And they went forth to meet David and to meet the people that were with him. And when David came near to the people, he saluted them. Then answered all the wicked men and men of Belial, of those that went with David, and said, Because they went not with us, we will not give them aught of the spoil that we have recovered, save to every man his wife and his children, that they may lead them away and depart. Then said David, Ye shall not do so, my brethren, with that which the Lord hath given us, which hath preserved us, and delivered the company that came against us into our hand. For who will hearken unto you in this matter? But as his part is that goeth down to the battle, so shall his part be that tarrieth by the stuff. They shall part alike. And it was so from that day forward, that he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel unto this day. So this is interesting. These were considered wicked men, sons of Belial again. They wanted to exclude the 200 from the spoil. And the spoil, it does seem that they got extra stuff from the Amalekites, of course. So they got all their own stuff back. And they got a little extra from the Amalekites when they destroyed the Amalekites. But the people went to fight. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them said, hey, these other guys didn't actually fight, so we're not going to give them a share of the spoil. They weren't even just going to not give them the share of what the extra stuff, but they weren't even going to give them their own stuff back that was taken by the Amalekites. They were going to keep it all themselves. David would not allow this, and this is true. That would be theft. Just because the Amalekites stole it already doesn't mean you can steal it and claim it for yourself. You have to return it to the rightful owner. But then again, these men were willing to go, but they were physically unable to go into battle. It's not that they chose not to, they weren't able to. And I like that. David says, no, everybody who is willing to go gets an equal share. If they were physically unable to, but are willing, they get an equal share. And they stayed in the camp. They did protect the camp, and they were kind of a rear guard in case anybody came up behind them. So they weren't being useless. They just weren't able to do a forced march. David was on a forced march. They were going fast to catch the Amalekites, and these 200 men just didn't have the physical strength and endurance to continue that march, and so they stayed behind. Because of that, they would get an equal share. And this is a standing law in Judah from the time of David until the end of the nation of Judah. So let us finish this out. Verse 26. And when David came to Ziklag, he sent of the spoil unto the elders of Judah, even to his friends, saying, Behold, a present for you of the spoil of the enemies of the Lord, to them which were in Bethel, and to them which were in South Ramoth, and to them which were in Jatir, and to them which were in Aroer, and to them which were in Siphmoth, and to them which were in Eshtemoa, and to them which were in Rachel, and to them which were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, and to them which were in the cities of the Kenites, and to them which were in Hormah, and to them which were in Korashan, and to them which were in Athak, and to them which were in Hebron, and to all the places where David himself and his men were wont to haunt. Now, I like that. They had usual places that they would travel around and kind of hide out from Saul. These were the places that they commonly would go to, kind of make a round to all these places trying to avoid Saul. When David gets the spoil, he takes a portion of it, probably his own portion, the portion that he got, and he sends a gift to all the people who had been helping him throughout the years. Got this kind of a thank you. Look, I was able to put down the enemies of the Lord. We got a little present for you here, and he sends it all out. I like that. But that's the end of the chapter, so we're going to leave that here, and we will pick this up. We have one chapter left in the book of 1 Samuel.